Every saxophone player needs to be working to develop better sound on their instrument. Whether you're a sixth grader working on the first concert and beginning band, or whether you're a professional musician that's working towards a paid gig, sound has to be number one. If your sound is not appropriate for what you're trying to do, no one's going to want to listen to you. When I talk about sound, I always break things down into two different categories. The first is conceptual, and 90% of what I talk about is going to be working on concepts in developing better tone quality. The other 10% is what I call the other stuff. What kind of instrument you might be playing on, mouthpiece, reed, embouchure, even air support are all secondary towards a good concept of tonal production. Now, when I talk about sound concept, one of the things that I want my students to understand is that inside our brains we have a success or failure seeking device, and it's going to be working towards whatever we tell it to work towards. So if we give it a bad sound concept, subconsciously that's what we're working towards. However, if we work to make sure that we're giving ourselves a good target of good sound, subconsciously we're always going for that. That and that alone is the number one reason why we need to be listening to saxophone players. Whether it be a jazz musician or a classical musician, we need to find masters on our instrument in every single style and to use them as models to feed the concept of sound within our brain. Now, the other part of concept is conceptualizing what I need to do to produce good sound on the saxophone. For that, I use just the neck and leave the rest of the instrument aside. I'll work on that a little bit later. If I can't produce a characteristic tone just on the neck, mouthpiece, and reed, it really doesn't matter what I'm going to be doing with the rest of my instrument. So what is good sound just with the neck? Number one, good sound, we need to make sure that we can fill this tube up with air. All right, this tube has to come first. If I can't fill this tube up with air, it's going to be very difficult for me to fill the entire instrument up with air. All right, the second is the type of air that I'm putting through the instrument. I can certainly blow a lot of hot air through any tube, but I need to be making sure that that air is energized and that it's focused. The third thing is the vowel shape in our mouth. Now, there's a lot of different theories out there about what the best thing is to do in terms of thinking of vowel. When I play classical music, I think more of a rounded or an O shape. When I do jazz, I'm looking for a brighter, more cutting sound, and for that I typically think an E. I'm going to play a couple of neck tones, and what I recommend you do is you find a partner, and then you do a series of these where you would listen to the other person play, and then you would play while they listen to you. This way you're both developing tonal concepts, and you can talk about the things that you're hearing, but then you're also working to produce sound, and you get some good feedback from whoever you're practicing with. Here's what I think a good, solid neck tone should sound like. Now you notice that that entire long tone was the same intensity of air. Also, at the beginning of it, I didn't choose any sort of attack. I didn't use the tongue at all. Tongue is the antitone. When the tongue is touching the reed, it cannot possibly vibrate, and therefore I'm not getting sound out of my instrument. So I'm just using a whole attack as I play. Let me do another one. Listen to the sound as you play that neck tone. You should hear an intense sound. You should hear a full tube filled with air. And you can also practice this at all different dynamic levels to make sure that you can sustain a certain intense quality to your sound no matter how loud or soft you're playing. Before I go on, I should demonstrate what a lousy neck tone would sound like. And here you're going to hear undersupported, airy, unfocused. This one would be with an embouchure that is way too tight. I'm chomping down on my reed. If you were closer to me, if the mic was closer, you would also hear a lot of air that's leaking out of my mouth. It simply has no place else to go, so it leaks through. Here again is a good, energized air, full tube, focused neck tone. One of the exercises that I use for developing sound is, again, on a chromatic scale, and I'm fanning out. I choose a very easy note for me to play on the saxophone, and for that I think B, just written first finger B, is one of the best to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be working chromatically on that B. Go from B down to B flat, and then B up to C. B, B flat A, B, C, C sharp. It sounds like this, and the whole time, this is an easy exercise, and I'm doing that so that I can focus on my tone quality. As long as you want to. The goal for that is getting to the final note and holding that out as a long tone. We're listening for evenness across the instrument, across all ranges, all tessituras, and we're also listening for intonation, obviously a well-supported sound. And lastly, what I also try to focus on is just my embouchure, making sure that that's not too tight. Well, I can talk about embouchure on a later video lesson, but for now, the most important thing is to stay loose and relaxed here. All right, happy developing sound. Again, if you're not working on sound, this is a great place to start. And I would strongly recommend just working on the neck. Every single day when you warm up the instrument, just blow a couple of neck tones to make sure that you're getting a good sound just with the mouthpiece, reed, and neck.